this law was passed in a summer session in 2021, and I read an article about it in September of this year. So I had no idea. And I have a third grader. I spoke to third grade teachers who had no idea when the school year started that this was a loss.
Learning Loss Remediation and Student Acceleration Act was part of the General Assembly's 2021 Extraordinary Session on Education in response to COVID-19. During that time, bills didn't go through the normal session, a 2-year time period. So rather than deliberating on a bill for anywhere from 3 months to a year, bills were amended and adopted in 3 days. Beginning with 2022-23, this school year, a student in third grade shall not be promoted to fourth grade unless the student's English Language Arts score on the TCAP test shows performance rated as on track or mastered. So retention hinges only on the English Language Arts portion of the TCAP test and nothing more.
Why is a single test not a good determiner of retention? Well, it's just not good data. Good data is instead gathered across time through various sources, right? We want teacher input, class grades, guardian family consultation, standardized tests. All of these things are in the policy and that the law goes in direct opposition to.
When we think about what's going to happen to these kiddos after being retained, they're going to be less likely to graduate high school. They're going to be less likely to make as much money as their peers who are not retained. They're likely going to have more challenging behaviors because there's still not adequate supports in place for them.
There is no evidence showing that blanket retention is an effective strategy.
And what ends up happening, by definition, we have students who fall below and students who fall above. 30 to 50% of students will be retained. And students are just more complicated than a test score.
And many of the questions on the third grade assessment, and this is true for other grades as well, do not test reading comprehension.
The term proficiency itself is a misnomer. This is not a measure of achievement. This is literally a label that compares students.
This law also perpetuates the idea that we don't have good teachers and that our kids can't read. And that's just not true. Now, this law is including our average C students. It's not showing the growth from where they were last year to where they are this year because it's not taking into account the whole child.
Where are the schools going to get all these additional third grade teachers when we retain 50% of the student population? Where are we going to find additional third grade classroom space? Because remember, we're retaining a lot of fourth graders too.
Teachers already on average spend about $1,000 to $1,500 of their own money on school supplies every year. We're going to add on that extra 60% of our grade getting held back. And then we're going to have to add on, okay, well, I've got to make all these extra materials, all these extra interventions and supports.
So right now, the state is basically proposing some type of after-school programming or summer school. So the child would have to stay late or attend summer school. Where are we going to get the funding for that? What happens to students who can't participate?
Guidelines for that, as far as I understand, have not yet been developed by the Department of Ed, so we don't know what that would look like.
And no one has those answers as of yet.
So we need to make sure that we are putting things in place to make sure that our children feel safe, nurtured, and wanted in our schools. And we can't do that if we're just failing them on one test and we're putting them in overloaded classrooms. It's because what we do know is that retention alone does not work.
We have to let lawmakers know that this is not the way to go about this. I think it's all of our responsibility to make sure that others know.